Upstairs at... What? Why'd you move the thing? Upstairs at Froelich, show 108, reel 1.
Testes, 1, 2, 3.
Testes. Okay, we're starting off with the Philadelphia experiment, right?
Yep.
Here we are. It is 1984, and John Carpenter is on top of the world. And basically, I guess, people want to be in the John Carpenter business. It's probably in the honeymoon period around the time that he made, let me see, Christine and Starman, the two movies for Columbia Pictures, and he had been working on scripts during that time, and he was a screenwriter too. Let's not forget that. And he had written a lot of story ideas down. He was, maybe he was trying to get into the Spielberg version and the Spielberg business of kind of putting movies together. So he winds up being executive producer on both these movies too, right?
On Philadelphia, he is credited as executive producer. On Black Moon Rising, he is credited as screenwriter.
Right, and story too, I think.
Yep, main story, and then shared screenwriting credit.
And then he had apparently worked on Philadelphia Experiment for years, writing the script, rewriting, but he never gets any credit for any work he did, probably because of WGA rules or something like that. Maybe somebody made enough changes.
They ended up doing that. What's really funny is if you watch the original theatrical trailer, at the very end you see story by John Carpenter, but then you see the screenplay listed under John Carpenter and then the two other guys. Right. But then when you watch the movie, his name is only as executive producer, and he doesn't have a story credit at all.
Right. That's probably because maybe the writers disputed it with the Writers Guild.
They had,
and a lot of times somebody will find themselves completely written out of a project,
With every movie that John Carpenter, this is with the lone exception of Halloween 2, because he did not direct that. He wrote it with Deborah Hill. Okay.
Right.
Any other movie that he shares a story credit with, that's only ceremonial, because every single one of these movies, that would be The Eyes of Laura Mars, The Philadelphia Experiment, and Black Moon Rising. All of those screenplays are so far removed from the original story that we're not even looking at a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
These are just director's interpretations of what a John Carpenter screenplay should be.
Right. So this
but
movie
they're not
played
bad movies by any means.
No, they're all great actually. This movie played on cable constantly between 1985 and 1987. You would find it on HBO. You got Michael Paré and Bobby DeCicco. They're a pair of naval servicemen involved in a hush-hush experiment in Philadelphia, obviously the title. 1943, involving some kind of a new stealth technology. Their ship and crew disappears, and they find themselves in the desert in Nevada in the future. And we're talking 1984. And Michael Paré doesn't seem worse for the wear, but DeCicco has manifested some strange powers, the ability to disrupt electricity and cause power spikes, but it comes at a cost. He causes a bunch of video arcade games to go berserk in a diner. They abduct Nancy Allen and steal her car. They're captured by authorities, but Nancy oddly doesn't press charges. And in the hospital, Bobby gets worse, and then he eventually disappears. Michael Perry's story sounds nuts, but he doesn't appear to be crazy at all. And he's being chased by authorities now because people are on to him and whatever he is. And obviously this is some kind of a weird thing the government wants to keep quiet. And Bobby has phased into electrical nothingness, but what he does, he winds up going back to his own time and basically living his life, because they managed to track down his wife, and they track him down in the process, and he's an old man by this point. So now thinking about it, the movie kind of reminds me of a reverse-Terminator.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, considering Terminator was pretty hot around that time, someone's going to capitalize on that time travel aspect a little bit.
I guess. Can I confess something to you?
Go ahead.
I'm not a big fan of Terminator. I'm really
What?
not the first Terminator. The movie I really liked is Judgment Day, the second one.
Well, I even agree that Judgment Day is a better movie than the original Terminator.
I mean, I think the original Terminator is it's derivative of a lot of science fiction, and obviously
Harlan Ellison.
Yes, Harlan Ellison sued, and because it's not an original story, and I've seen some stuff from Harlan Ellison, 2 episodes of The Outer Limits to be precise, and Cameron even admitted it. That's why he lost the court case. And anytime you ever ask James Cameron about Harlan Ellison, who is arguably one of the greatest science fiction writers ever, he just says Harlan's an asshole. That's what he says. He just says that because he lost the court case. But this movie, I like this movie more than the original Terminator, because I like the coupling of Nancy Allen and Michael Paré. We have a stranger from the past and a woman who has to help him, and there's a lot of great culture clash moments thrown in. He doesn't, for some reason, Michael Paré doesn't understand soda cans. He doesn't understand the concept of soda.
I love that. I mean, no, my favorite scenes with the German where he goes, "It's German."
Like all
he's making it's like he doesn't know what Lowenbrow is, and he
picks up the bottle and they assume that Germany has captured America because now we're drinking their beer.
See, the problem with that scene though, in this day and age, you get a millennial watching a scene like that, they're not going to get any significance or any humor whatsoever. But old farts like us, we laugh at jokes like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're a little closer to the Cold War, and the Cold Beer War apparently too.
I mean, I've never drank a Lowenbrow, but at least I heard of it.
Yeah. Now, Nancy Allen is, of course, a modern woman, so she's sexually liberated, and he doesn't understand her sexual liberation. He doesn't get the fact, well, what do you mean you'll get married if you feel like it? I mean, like, you have to get married. You're a woman or something like that. I like Michael Paré. I think he's an interesting actor. I think he's a good-looking guy with an anachronistic face that lends well to different time periods, which is probably why he was cast not only in this movie, but Eddie and the Cruisers and Streets of Fire. That was basically his holy trilogy of movies.
I would say that's his trifecta right there.
Yeah, that's the trifecta, and he has that look that can be adapted to those times. This is another one of those great man-woman on the run movies. Like I was saying, The Terminator or Starman. But there are some jarring edits. That I feel like there's a couple of scenes. There's a scene missing or something, because I remember watching it and they're in the car and then suddenly they're in the back of a horse carrier, and there was no scene that transitioned them from the car to the...
You never found out how they got there. Like, did they hitch a ride? Did they sneak aboard or something like that? Like, we need a little bit of exposition on that. Not suspension of belief. I think a little exposition would have been better. At the same time, on the whole, it's a great movie. Now, did you read about how much this movie cost to make? Because it shocked the hell out of me.
I did not see the budget. What was it?
This movie cost $21 million to make.
Oh, okay. I could chalk that up to one of two things. One of them may be the visual effects, because the visual effects are pretty striking for 1984. It looked like some digital stuff was going on there too, like some computer involved stuff, not necessarily CGI or anything, but computer animations might have been part of that. And also it probably looks damn good on HD. Unfortunately, I only looked at it on a VHS rip.
I dug out my Anchor Bay DVD of that. I talked to you the other night when I was watching it, and I watched maybe the first 20 minutes on the YouTube VHS rip. But when you're watching it on an HD TV, you noticed you could see some rainbow effects on there.
Yeah.
So it was captured from an extended play cassette.
Oh, there is another reason. I had two reasons, but there's actually three now that I think about it. The second reason might be that we are going back and forth between different times, and they're very authentic about the time period, especially in 1943. It really does look like 1943 with all the vehicles. Probably production design was very expensive. And the third reason might have been just general overall filmmaking incompetence or something. Maybe scenes were had to be reshot. Maybe it went through a time period. I just can't imagine that a movie like this being made like in 1984 would cost $21 million unless something went wrong or something was very expensive. It was directed by Stuart Rathell, who would go on later to direct the classic Mac and Me, which I just watched with my family over the weekend.
You have my sympathies, sir.
Well, it was on Mystery Science Theater, so it was like they made fun of the movie, and they made fun of the marketing and the product placement of McDonald's and the fact that Coca-Cola can save alien lives and stuff like that.
Dude, you know what? I remember when I was a 6-year-old kid, how desperate I was to see that movie in the theater. And then when
Really?
I rented, and dude, it was an alien. Dude, I was 6. I was discovering alien movies. I had just seen E.T. It was like, cool, it's a movie about an alien, awesome. And I'm just like, what the hell is this movie? When it hit VHS, I'm like, I wanted to see this piece of shit. I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't go to the theater.
Alan Silvestri did the music for that, right?
I don't know.
I believe he did. It was like, it's going to be like E.T., okay? You'll be able to be John Williams or something.
Man.
But, yeah. But that's all I can chalk it up to. I would say probably the visual effects is probably what set it over. There was a lot of stuff in there I particularly had never seen in movies at that time. It was pretty impressive looking.
I mean, I guess.
Oh, and for the record, yes, Alan Silvestri did the music for Mac and Me.
My whole thing, I was so shocked with the budget because, okay, New World Pictures was in their first year of filmmaking. Now, this is not Roger Corman's New World Pictures. This is the new revamped New World Pictures. Okay? Let's just say this was one of their first or second movies in production. How are you going to be a new company and spend that much money on a movie?
Maybe it was in development. Maybe other companies were interested. Maybe other companies had thrown money in. Maybe they had to shut down production and then bring it back up again. And this being one of New World's first productions after the Corman period, maybe they got in on it and contributed to the budget in that way.
I mean, because this movie even came out before they had their own video label, because this was originally on a Thorny MI VHS. And then my Laserdisc that I have is a RNG Image Star Maker, you know. It could
also be that John Carpenter, maybe his clout had been reduced severely after Starman, because Starman was a high-profile project. It was very well received by critics, and the people who went to see it really loved it, and of course it netted Oscar nominations. But it was not a profitable movie. It didn't make any money at the time that it was released. It cost a lot of money because of ILM's visual effects, but
it made it all back on home video, though.
It wound up becoming a big hit on home video and on cable, but at the time of release, it really wasn't a hit by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, I would assume like with the Michael Paré trifecta, you know, each of his three big movies, they all found their audiences in some way, and thanks to
eventually,
cable.
yeah,
they all found their audiences due to cable. You know, it just sucks that Michael Paré never went on to do like a huge ass movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He never went on to do a giant movie. I think I'm honestly saying this, his most high profile role as of late was that he was in The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey.
Ah, well, the only thing I saw him in recently, and this is not even that recent, this is a while back, but he was in the movie The Virgin Suicides, directed by Sofia Coppola.
Yep.
In a very small role, just basically telling the story. He's all grown up. He's in a grown-up version of one of the characters, and he was telling the story of these girls who all killed themselves. Good movie, too, by the way.
Now, did you know there was a sequel to Streets of Fire?
Yeah, right. It was called The Road to Hell. It was directed by Albert Pune.
Yep. I actually am one of like the 10 people who have seen it.
Nah, I've only seen sections of it.
I actually went to the theater. I think I told you this. They were playing Road to Hell in Chicago at the Irving Park Theater, and Albert Pune was in attendance.
Actually, up until recently, I wasn't even aware that movie was completed. I thought it was just little bits and pieces.
No, it was completed, but Albert keeps going back and re-editing it. Like, funny thing is, this one's even funnier. On Facebook, Albert Pune puts a thing saying he's re-editing Road to Hell. Michael Paré in a comment says, "Seriously, you're doing this again?"
And Black Moon Rising was awesome. We watched it on Saturday. My wife's watching it. My wife loves Tommy Lee Jones. She just can't get enough of him. She just absolutely loves him.
I can hold my head up high and say I liked that movie even before I knew who Tommy Lee Jones was.
Yeah.
Because I told you about how, you know, I got into New World when I was a kid and everything. And I remember I bought Transylvania 65000 on VHS from my local Kmart.
That's a movie we got to do. We got to do that one.
We definitely got to do that.
We got to do that, and not necessarily The Fly, but maybe do Earth Girls Are Easy, too. As two of the lesser known of the Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis movies.
I buy this movie, and right when I pop it in typical New World fashion, you always got a little TV spot before your movie started, and the TV spot on Transylvania 65000 was Black Moon Rising.
Cool.
And I'm like, this actually looks like a pretty good flick. Went to the video store a couple days later. They actually had it. I rented it, and I was like, this is a great fucking movie, you know?
I didn't, unfortunately.
I was 9 or 10.
I didn't get to see this in its original run. My friend Jeremy kept telling me to see it. He would be like, "You're going to love this movie. I mean, it's great." Well, this is from 1986. Again, it's from the mind of John Carpenter. And 86 was probably around the time that he was falling out with the studio system, because he did Big Trouble in Little China, which was a very expensive movie for Fox. And then after that, he would retreat and start doing movies through smaller independent production companies being released through Universal, like They Live and Prince of Darkness. And he just kind of he went back. So, but here he writes this one. And we have Tommy Lee Jones back when he was a movie star and not a respected actor. And I had seen maybe what had I seen Tommy Lee Jones in before that? I had seen
Coal Miner's Daughter.
Well, yeah, he was in Coal Miner's Daughter. He played
Isa Laura Mars.
Loretta Lynn's husband in that, and he was in Eyes of Laura Mars. I won't spoil the ending. But he was also a favorite of Andy Davis because he was in that movie. What was it? The Package?
That was 88, though.
Was that The Package, though?
That might have. I don't know if that was The Package. I can't remember if he was in The Package. I've never seen The Package.
Or was it The Formula? Because I always get The Package and The Formula mixed up. He was one of these great actors who could be a bad guy and a good guy. And also, in this movie, he's kind of ambiguous, but we know he's a good guy because he has a nice smile. And he's making it with Linda Hamilton. We kind of don't, what's great about it is you don't quite know who the good guys are, except for maybe the car owners, the owners of the car, the developers of the car, William Sanderson, another guy I don't recognize, and Richard Jekyll.
Oh, you don't know who that is?
The other guy I don't recognize now.
That's Billy the Kid from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh, okay. Well, I couldn't tell you what his name was to save my life, though.
Neither could I, but I just know who he is. And you're right, it was The Package, but that was 1989, Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones plays a high-tech cat burglar who's stealing tax records for government officials. Meanwhile, there's this ridiculously cool car called the Black Moon. It's being tested in the desert. This sucker can go from 0 to 325 in 10 seconds. The car runs on hydrogen. And at a gas station, Jones sees the car. He's intrigued by it. He hides a stolen computer tape in the back of the car. We see Linda Hamilton pops up later in a fine restaurant. She's got dark mousse 80s hair. It's obviously a wig. It's a disguise. And she looks at the car, and she's just basically sizing up all these cars. And as it turns out, she works for Robert Vaughn, who is the leader of this elaborate network of car thieves, but they only steal top-of-the-line cars and then resell them to, I guess, people. The thing about it is, if you're selling hot cars, I don't quite understand the logic or the profit. Because
he's selling them to somebody. Everybody's from a foreign country to where, this is the 80s we're talking about here, to where the laws of third world countries are a little bit more loose than they are out in the States. He's basically selling these cars to mafioso guys or cartel based out of Mexico, and these people from the cartel are giving them to other rich people for a discounted price or something like that, because in Mexico they can't get
these people,
fancy kind of car.
He owns buildings. He has Linda Hamilton all dressed to the nines, but these people are just nothing more than car thieves. But they're just well-dressed car thieves.
Now, you see, what did they ever say? Like, okay, he's a car thief, we get it, but what's his real business, or his fence?
You mean his front? His front.
Like, they never mention what his front is at all.
Well, maybe he owns the building and he rents out space to. Maybe he's like into real estate or something like that. Like he's got 2 towers, right?
Right.
So
one is still under construction and the other one's finished.
Right. So maybe he rents out office space at high prices and makes money that way. Maybe
there is a sign in the movie that does say office space available.
Right. Okay.
So at least that's it. But he obviously has to have a ton of money to pull permits to do all this kind of stuff. He obviously has to have a front other than stealing cars, but we don't know what his front is.
But he's Robert Vaughn, and in the 80s, Robert Vaughn always played an evil character. He was a good guy when he was Napoleon Solo on The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And I was thinking this movie could be very, very easily rewritten as a Man from U.N.C.L.E. episode.
The other 80s movie where he was a good guy, though, Battle Beyond the Stars.
Battle Beyond the Stars. But he was also in Superman 3.
But he was awesome as fuck in Superman 3.
Oh, yeah.
I love him in Superman 3.
Linda manages to steal the car. It's so weird. All these people are having dinner in the restaurant, and people are just lifting their cars out in the parking lot. And so they run off, and Linda takes the car. Linda Hamilton she actually is a fantastic actress, and I thought she was really hot, especially in this movie. Back in those days, she was really.
You got Children of the Corn, Terminator, and Black Moon Rising, like all in succession.
Yeah,
she was hot in all 4 or all 3 of those movies.
That's right. There's something about her mouth that I find incredibly sensual. Maybe it's her mouth, but she takes the car and she's driving, and she starts to realize, wait a minute, this isn't your ordinary everyday car. She's going like crazy, fast away, and Jones is trying to tail her so he can get back his tape, because he secreted it there because he got tired of getting punched in the gut by Bubba Smith. And even watching with these scenes being shot at night. This is a very John Carpenter looking movie with music very similar to John Carpenter music.
Like this whole movie reeks of Carpenter. You know,
Yeah, I feel like he could have directed this. I feel like he could have directed it. He could have, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he was giving the director some tips. Oh, the director's Harley Cockless, who used to work with Clint Eastwood. I think he was like a second unit director for Clint, and he still was even after this movie. He continues to work with, or he continued to work with Clint Eastwood throughout the '90s and up to now. He also directed. Did he direct that one that Burt Reynolds was in? It was either Heat or Malone. I'm not sure. He directed one of those two movies for Burt Reynolds.
I want to say it was Malone. I'm going to check that real quick. Yep, Malone. That was it.
All right, yeah. Now, now Jones and Linda, they hook up and they have it's an intensely erotic sex scene. It's very well shot, and also I could tell that the chemistry between the actors is quite good. And we've heard stories about how difficult Tommy Lee Jones can be to work with.
Yeah, and even Linda Hamilton said she didn't like working with him because he was still going through alcoholism on the set.
Oh, really? Oh, so he was having problems with alcohol at the time.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at the guy, you wouldn't think it.
He seems to be in really good shape.
I mean, it's just like going through alcoholism, but he always brought his A game, you know. And then you never hear, that's the thing, you never hear about any of that stuff in his biography or anything like that. You always got to hear it from other actors.
Well, I think Jones, I said this to you before, he's like Gene Hackman or Michael Caine. He's always good. It doesn't matter. Even if the material sucks. He's always good.
Even if it's man of the house.
Even if it's man of the house.
He'll always bring his A game to the set.
And directors do work with him more than once. Even Joel Schumacher, he got on Joel Schumacher's nerves. But Joel Schumacher worked with him twice.
Yeah, and the client in Batman Forever. And you know what? I love him in Batman Forever. People say they hate his performance as Two-Face. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you hate him as Two-Face? I think he's brilliant in the role.
If anything, I find Jim Carrey a little bit annoying in that.
Yeah, I mean, I do like him as the Riddler, but he is a little bit on the annoying side. But at the same time, who can you think of in 1995 to play the Riddler who was that level of popular and that level of funny?
And that level of campy, too, because it's very similar to Frank Gorshin's Riddler. So they get together with the owners of the vehicle to try and steal this car back from Robert Vaughn. And we get that wonderful bit at the top of the tower where the car, they get in and they hit the booster rockets and they go through the window and they wind up landing on the floor of the adjacent building. It's really exciting stuff. And you know that was going to happen anyway because of the booster rockets that this car has.
Well, that and the trailer always gave it away. Oh, here's a good one for you, though. Pop quiz, hotshot. There was one role in that movie that they didn't really allude to in the credits. I want you to tell me who played him. He was the security consultant.
Oh, the security consultant. See, I saw a lot of faces. I saw a lot of familiar faces in the movie. Oh, damn it. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know.
You can't look it up.
No, no. I know it's somebody. I know it's totally somebody.
Don Opper.
Right. That's right, Don Opper. The thing is, I didn't know it was Don Opper until I saw his name in the credits. I saw Don Opper's name in the Wikipedia listing, and I was like, "Where's Don Opper?" I didn't recognize him, and then I saw his name in the credits.
Because everyone thinks of Don Opper from Critters. Everyone
with the weird hair.
Yeah, with the weird hair, the big teeth. You know, you're seeing this guy with slick back hair. He's talking intelligible. He's wearing glasses. It is a very non-Don Opper performance.
He doesn't look like like Rick Ocasek on heroin. That's what I was thinking about. So this is just a seriously fun movie, and this is how movies should be made. I would really put it out there for all you would-be filmmakers. Stop with this bullshit you're doing and make a movie like Black Moon Rising or Philadelphia Story. Remember, the story is the king, man. And if you can get all the right pieces, like I thought Linda and Tommy Lee were fucking awesome in this movie.
I love every aspect of this.
Even though Hamilton complained about his behavior, I guess, when they were making it, they work well together. They have a great chemistry, and you totally believe it.
Yeah, everything about that movie. I mean, a couple of plot holes aside, we've already discussed what they were. I mean, on the whole, it's a great movie. So again, I know you're not going to bring out the Meridian meter, but this is a 9 on the Meridian meter.
I might even go up to 10. I found it as satisfying. I mean, both movies were pretty damn satisfying. That's all you have to do to impress me anymore.
I like Black Moon a little more than Philadelphia Experiment because it feels the most Carpenter-esque compared to both movies. But it's just so enjoyable. It's like, you know what? you're sitting there for 95 minutes. You turn your brain off. You just watch all these actors have a good time. You watch balls to the wall action. You watch nudity, and you watch people get the shit beat out of them.
I mean, what the fuck is the point of any movie that doesn't do that?
Exactly.
Every movie should deliver on
that.
And I was talking to my wife. We were watching the sex scene between her and Jones, right? And we're like, eroticism doesn't exist in movies anymore. There's no sex anymore in movies. It's like they don't mind violence, but they draw the line at sex. And it's sad. It's fucking sad. It shouldn't be like that. All right, here we have, this is a very rare find that you're going to see here. It's Kim's Video. Okay, Kim's Video was the premier spot to find rare, obscure, hard to find videos back in the 80s and 90s. Mainly, I would say their peak period was at the end of the 90s, before DVD, before everything that happened. This is a Kim's Video cassette. This is something, Kim's was so big that they not only did mail order on hard to find titles if you wanted to buy, and you wanted to spend a lot of money, because there were hard to find titles back then, usually a smaller movie or one that wasn't so popular would have a very limited run. Can you take the tape out? And it was, you know, they basically put their imprint on things. And what's more, they would kind of encourage you to record, because many of the titles that they had were so rare that they did not want them to continue to be rented constantly, because they would usually only have one at a time. Now, let's see what the titles of those are. Can you hit the spine there on there? It's the other side. No, the other side of the tape. There you go. Now, as you can see, I picked up two titles. I rented two titles from Kim's, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill and Martin. And these two were very hard to find. You could not find these in even some of the smaller stores like Champagne Video or places like that, or even Tower or RKO or Blockbuster or Hollywood or any places like that. I rented these, I taped them. You buy the tape, you can buy the tape along with it. Let's see the back of the box. As you can see, it says, ideal for recording from the cradle to the grave. There is, well, let me see the front. Now the front, you can see, is obviously a parody of the Nirvana Nevermind album cover. It says, don't hold your breath. This was such a, yeah, I had a membership, and it was very coveted to have a membership at Kim's. They were very specific about the people that they made members. And they had so many rare videos. I also got Crime Wave from here. I couldn't find Crime Wave at all. This was back in the time of VHS videotapes. Everything is available these days, but these were very hard to find titles back then. And this I will take to my grave. Thank you very much.